What do you call a belt with a watch on it? A waste of time. On Sunday, we focused on a psalm that was written by Moses, and it says, "Teach us to realize the brevity of life, so that we may grow in wisdom." Life is short, and that recognition that time is short helps us to grow in wisdom. So today, I'd like for us to grow in wisdom by learning from someone who knows something about the brevity of life. Bronnie Ware is an Australian nurse, and she spends most of her time with people who have been told that they have less than 12 weeks to live. And she helps them through the last 12 weeks of their life. Many years ago, she started to ask all of these people a question. She asked them, "Do you have any regrets?" She started writing down their answers, and she realized that everyone pretty much has the same answer. Yes. And the crazy thing is that almost all of them had the same regrets. So today, I'd like to share with you the 2 top regrets that people who are about to die have. But we're going to start with number 2. The second most common regret is, and you may think this would have been the first one, "I wish I hadn't worked so hard." And this is what Bronnie said about this. She said, "This came from every male patient that I nursed. They missed their children's youth and their partner's companionship." Women also spoke of this regret. But as most were from an older generation, many of the female patients had not been breadwinners. All of the men I nursed deeply regretted spending so much of their lives on the treadmill of work existence. If we don't learn to number our days, we will end our lives wrestling with an avoidable regret. It's not necessary. You only get to be 20 once. You only get to be 30 once. You can't go back. You only get to be 40, well, maybe a few times. And then 50, that's indefinite. But no, not really. You only get to have your first child one time. You only get to drop your first child off at school for the first time once. You only get to drop them off at college once. You only get to hold your first grandchild once. At some point, you will be confronted with the reality that your days are numbered. But the scary thing is that most people don't realize it until they know when the end will be. Okay, and the number 1 regret, and teenagers and single people learn this early because it's hard to learn late. The number 1 regret is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. This is what Bronnie said in her book about this one. "This was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it is easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Most people had not honored even a half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices that they had made or not made. Health brings a freedom very few realize until they no longer have it." So what is your purpose? We spend way too little time answering that question. Most of us determine what we're going to do with our lives based on what our parents did. Maybe your parents were ridiculously successful and you spend your whole life trying to live up to their success. Maybe your parents were unsuccessful and now you spend your life trying not to be like them. Or maybe they were just kind of middle of the road, but you thought that they were so boring that you decided you didn't want to be like them. But whatever the case is, don't choose what you should do with your life based on the experience or opinions of someone else. You have a purpose and you were created to fulfill it. Okay, so what do we do with all of this? I'd like for us all to do some thinking about our own lives. So I'd like for all of us to answer 4 questions. The first question is, what do I need to add to my schedule that I am not doing? On your deathbed, what are you going to wish that you had done? The second is, what do I need to stop doing with my time? And this is tough because if you're doing it, you're doing it for a reason. You're either doing it because it makes you feel good, or because you have a hard time saying no, or because everybody else is doing it. This is the way we've always done it. But whatever it is, that means that it's going to be hard to stop doing. It will probably be the one that you just don't have to think about it much. You know what you need to stop doing, but it's so hard to do it. You haven't stopped yet. And sometimes this is really hard because it's not a thing you need to stop. It's a person. Sometimes the thing you need to stop spending time with is a someone. Maybe it's a someone who is a bad influence on you. Maybe it's someone who is just too needy, or maybe it's someone who is just totally toxic. You only have so much time in this world. What do you need to just completely stop doing, or someone that you just need to stop spending time with? And third, what am I doing that I need to do more of? This one will probably have something to do with a relationship. It will be something like spending time with kids, or going on dates with your spouse, or hanging out with friends. It could be something to do with your health. It could be going to Club Energize more often, or going on more walks. And then last, what am I doing that I need to do less? Maybe you don't need to throw out the TV, but maybe you need to stop watching it so much. Maybe you don't need to stop golfing or hunting, but maybe it's time for you to do less of it. It's good for you to have a hobby, but it's not good for a hobby to have you. Maybe it's working less or spending less time at the gym. What do you need to spend more time doing, and what do you need to spend less time doing? So, fill out the card that you have and have a discussion with your group about it. You can do it privately or individually if you want, but I think it's best if we can all just kind of out loud think about this together. And as you tell your group what you're writing on the card, maybe you can help bring something to mind for somebody else. That's what life groups are all about, right? Okay, that's all I have for today. There's not any more of this video, so work on your card, and I'll see you Sunday in church.